into the end zone 7 straight times.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen. That can't happen. It's just anyway. We'll save it for the podcast, right?
Yeah. We'll see. We'll save some.
The great thing about podcasts, anybody can do anything at this point. So the technology is so cool now. And I mean, when I was starting in radio, I was literally cutting and splicing tape. I mean, it was, razor blades and China markers and and doing that stuff. And the only way to get your stuff out there was to be on one of, 3 or 4 radio stations that people listen to in any given market. And now there's just so many ways to do it. So you guys have done a lot already. I mean, I've seen some of your stuff, and I've seen some of the guests that you've had on, and it's cool, man. I'm happy to see it, so I'm happy to be here.
I appreciate it.
Appreciate that for sure, man. And then we started March 2020.
Yeah.
And we started, and then a week later, all sports were shut down.
Oh my God!
What the fuck? There, you good to go? Everybody's good
Yes,
to go?
I am. Absolutely. All good.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah. Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Let's get it. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam. Sean on the mic, very flat too. Keep you updated, that's what we do. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Pro Fan. Tune into the program. Every single week, get the dope, fam.
Yo, what to do, everybody? It's your boy John Altidor with Pro Fan Sports Podcast. Back at you with my boys Vlad, Barry, and today we got 98.5 Sports Hub host Rob Hardy in the house, man. How you doing, Hardy?
I'm excellent. How are you guys doing? Thanks for having me on.
We're doing well, but not so well. Like I was telling you before, we could be a lot happier. But
right.
we're gonna keep on moving on here, because we have no choice with what transpired over the week, and that is what happened with the Patriots, the debacle that was. What was the final score there? 47-17.
Yes, sir. Unfortunately.
Yep. So let me ask you guys a question to start here. A lot of people were talking about, they're going to hang a 50 burger on them. No, they put up a 40. But what is the minimum number of points before you can say a team hung a burger on you? Or, like in basketball, it's like, Tatum dropped a 40 burger last night on the Knicks. Yeah. I say the minimum number for a burger is 40, but I got into arguments with people. They said 50 is the minimum number for a burger.
No, I think it's 40 for me.
I think 40, man.
40. I'd agree with the fellas, right?
Yeah, okay. Because you can't do a 38 burger. That just it doesn't sound right. It doesn't
Right. It doesn't make sense. Right. Doesn't have that same kind of ring to it, right?
Man, I was online tweeting. I said, third quarter. I'm like, man, these guys are gonna put up 50 on us at least. And somebody said 60. I'm like, you might be right, because we weren't doing anything right. I think we had Bertrand on last week, and he talked about us having a close game. I think Barry had his prediction, online as well. He had it like 24-20, I believe. I think all of us in here, had it pretty close. What were your feelings towards the game? What were you seeing? What went wrong?
Well, I mean, my prediction, I thought the Bills were going to win. I thought it was going to be a one-score game, and I wouldn't have been surprised to see the Pats pull it out. I had it 24-17 going into the game. I thought the Bills, based on the way they had played the Patriots the last time and how they've looked, not just this season, but you go back about 3 years now for the Bills. This has been a team in ascension. I mean, they're coming up.
Building.
They're getting better. Right. So you got to give them the credit, and you got to give them the respect. And I guess maybe I had a little bit too much respect for what the Patriots had done this season and what I thought they would be able to do. Look, I love to say I told you so. So sitting there watching the game as I'm doing we get we wrap up the pregame on Patriots.com. It's me, it's Paul Perillo, and it's Mike Dussault. And we're sitting there, we're watching the game from the studios at Gillette Stadium. Once it went up 14-0, much like it had in Week 17 for the Patriots in their final regular season game, I turned to them and I said, guys, it's over. The game is over.
Yeah.
And they said, don't be ridiculous. And Perillo's, seen and watched more football than probably all of us combined. And he's not willing to call it. And I said, Paul, it's over. And to me, the real first turning point of the game, aside from those 2 touchdowns, and I called the game over at that point, was when Patriots, trailing 14-0, 4th and short, around midfield, decided to punt the ball. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's it. It's over. And they said, well, and again, I'm arguing with Paul and Deuce, and they said, you can't turn the ball over, you can't get in the field position. I said, here's what's going to happen. They're going to punt the ball away. The Bills are going to drive down 10 plays, 6 minutes, and it's going to be 21-0. Now, I was wrong on 2 points. It was not 6 minutes. It was 6 minutes, 3 seconds. But it was 10 plays, 6 minutes, 3 seconds, and they missed the extra point to make it 20-0. But at that point, I said, that's it. If you don't have the stones, if you don't, and for Belichick, I'll give him at least some credit in knowing that they didn't have it in them to continue that drive, and they had to get the offense back on the sideline and retool. But I didn't agree with the call. I thought you are putting way too much stock in your defense at this point. The game is now over. Even before the drive downfield and they went up 20-0, I said, that's it. If you're punting away at midfield on 4th and short, that's it. Too bad we couldn't pack it up and go home. We had to stay there for the rest of the game and then do a 2-hour post game that lasted until past 1 o'clock in the morning. So it was brutal. It was one of those nightmares that you just couldn't wake up from. And, we were talking a little bit before we started here. I can't recall seeing a football game, at least when the Patriots were on the field, where the opponent did whatever they wanted. They did whatever they wanted to the Pats. They drove down. They scored 7 touchdowns, no field goals, no punts. I don't ever recall seeing a game like that. And it just I guess if you're watching this team in the last few weeks, both teams, and saw what the Bills were capable of and what the Patriots were incapable of, you could have seen it coming after it was 14-0. And certainly once the Bills went up 20-0, the game was over.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen it all season. If a team goes up 17 on us, then, in the first half, it's pretty much over. We have not been able to come back, against a team, up that much. I think other than the Texans earlier on in the season, that we came back from, not even that much, but, but it's the Texans, but as soon as we go down 17, and I remember exactly the play you're talking about when we punted at the, half field, I said, this is not like defense. You got to do something now or else it's over, but it just seems like we weren't ready at all, man. On defense, our cornerbacks, Jawan Williams, I said online, just cut him after this game because he's not doing anything at all, man. And it was just tragic, man. It was just tragic. It just looks like, I don't know what happened after the bye, right? It just looks like we weren't able to do anything in any of the games. What do we lose? 4 out of 5 to end the season?
Well,
4 out of the last 5. Yep.
Yeah, 4 out of 5, including the playoff game, 3 out of 4 to end the regular season. And John, I think it's interesting that you mentioned what happened there out of the bye, because that was, when Mac had come out and said it was the Saturday night game on the road against the Colts. And after the game, Mac said, well, we didn't have a good week of practice and we didn't feel good. And a lot of people thought, a little bit of that.
Yeah.
But I think some people thought those words were kind of put in his mouth. Like someone pulled him aside and said, you need to, in your post game, indicate that, this is a team thing and we didn't have a good week of practice. And, there's been a lot of talk about the locker room and how things are going in terms of leadership and the feel in the room and whether Belichick had lost the room. I think you go back to that to that game out of the bye, what Mac had to say after the game, whether he was kind of being used as a pawn by one of the coaches to kind of get a message to the rest of the team. But I don't think that sat well with the rest of the team. I don't know, and maybe it was all Mac, and maybe that's just the way he felt, and he was just, having a moment of pathological honesty. But something absolutely happened after that Colts game. They only got one win against a bad team on the way in since then, and quite frankly, looked outclassed and outmatched by, some good teams. I would say the Bills are definitely a good team, but they, for the 4 losses that they suffered in the last 5 games, the Patriots looked less than average. They looked like a less than average football team.
Oh, yeah.
They went 10-7. They met or exceeded a lot of expectations by going 10-7 and making the playoffs. But when you limp in and then you throw an absolute dud up in the wild card round, it takes away a lot of the good feeling that should be there for this team, who just finished with a winning record and made the postseason in the first year with a rookie quarterback. It's unfortunate, but I think that's how a lot of people feel now.
Yeah, I mean, we couldn't defend anything, even after the first touchdown against the Bills. And when it happened, it looked like that to me. The pass Allen had to Knox at the end of the end zone there. I'm like, that looked like he was throwing it away. And after the game, he actually said that, hey, I was actually throwing that ball away. I didn't even know it was a touchdown until I hear people screaming, and I'm like, were guys not ready? And, especially on the defensive line, it looked like, after the situation with Judon, he wasn't the same player again, and the defensive line just couldn't do anything, and with the lack of cornerbacks we had, that pretty much did us in.
It's funny you mentioned that first touchdown, to Knox, where it Josh Allen said he was just trying to throw it out the back of the end zone. He had the ball for 10 seconds. The play lasted for 10 seconds. I think he just he was honestly throwing the ball away because it's not like he ran out of time. It's not like he was getting any real pressure that he couldn't avoid. He's like, I think he felt bad for his offensive linemen. It's like, you guys have blocked me now for coming up on a third of a minute. Yeah, it's enough. We've done our job. The receivers can't get open. Let me just get rid of this thing, and we'll try it again on the next play. I mean, it's not like he had to chuck it up. He's just, enough already. Let me just get rid of this thing. We'll try it again. Right. So, again, just more of, we should have seen it coming. We should have seen it coming from the jump in that game.
This year the Patriots had a rookie quarterback, and but they still had Bill Belichick as the coach, and Bill Belichick is considered one of those defensive genius. So I thought this year was gonna be a year where the team relied on the defense to help their offense. But that last game of the year, the defense couldn't get a stop, as we mentioned. And what happened?
12.
What happened there? What happened to a Bill Belichick team that's usually well coached, well disciplined? On the first drive of that game, they had a penalty and they had a draw by Brandon Bolden. The team just looked not ready, not disciplined. Their strong suit, which is supposed to be defense, was not strong at all. What happened to this Bill Belichick team?
Well, those are the biggest questions going into this offseason, because, if you're going to be outclassed on the field due to talent, there's supposed to be a few things we're supposed to be able to count on from the Patriots. Yeah. Strong defense, you mentioned one of them. Disciplined play, not taking dumb penalties, and not beating yourself by making mistakes. The Brandon Bolden drop, and again, I feel bad for Brandon Bolden. I think he has been consistently one of their best players all year long, which in and of itself may be a problem when you're talking about an offense where Brandon Bolden is arguably your best player on any given week. And you could make that argument.
Right, that's very telling. Absolutely.
Yeah, you could make that argument several weeks, but whether it's him dropping a pass, whether it's jumping off sides, whether it is, a bad defense from a Bill Belichick team, you start to question a lot in terms of, well, are all these things that we just take for granted? And I don't mean take for granted as fans and we're spoiled rotten. I mean, we take for granted Bill Belichick's one of the greatest coaches of all time, and I still believe he is, and I still believe he knows what he's doing defensively, and I still think there is a for the most part a good culture around that team and in that building to where they don't make dumb mistakes. But when they all fall apart at once, the team didn't have the requisite talent to overcome those mistakes, much less chase a team after falling behind 14-0, which they did 2 games in a row there to end the season. So, maybe just to focus in on the defense for a second, Bill Belichick is still the guy I think that we have to be talking about here. Whether he is the defensive coordinator or not, when the defense turned around during the 7-game win streak, a lot of people theorized, and it became accepted as fact, that he had kind of taken control back from Steve Belichick and said, okay, Steve, you've done a nice job. I appreciate your hard work, but I need to take a more hands-on approach here. And the result was a 7-game winning streak. If that's the case, do we think that Bill then somehow handed control back to Steve for the final games of the regular season and into the postseason? No. It was still under Belichick's control. The buck ultimately stops with him anyway. So when you ask a question about the defense and put Belichick's name to it, that is correct. That's fair. That's us being honest. If we're going to give him credit for the turnaround midseason, he's got to take the blame now for the defense collapsing at the end of the regular season and then Saturday night in Buffalo.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, like I mentioned before, I just thought that Belichick's defense was supposed to support the offense. And you have a rookie quarterback in, and he needed all the support necessary to win this game. But as far as offense goes, what do you make of Mac Jones' play? I mean, he had 2 interceptions. The offense just had trouble going, and the guys didn't look ready. They had multiple penalties in the game. What do you make of the offensive play, especially Mac Jones plays? And do you think he didn't have enough weapons this year to be as good of a quarterback as he could be?
I don't want to hear about the weapons. I really don't want to hear about the weapons. We're all so excited for Jonnu Smith and for Hunter Henry. And we thought, oh, Jacoby Myers is going to be coming around. They got Nelson Aguilar. Okay, he's now, for whatever you thought about Cam Newton last year, one of the biggest things that had to be brought up, whether you're a Cam Newton supporter or not, was he didn't really have anyone to throw the ball to. Mac had people to throw the ball to. So now it's not like I'm not willing to engage in it when I say I don't want to hear about the weapons. That's just me saying I don't believe it's a question of having enough weapons. Maybe one of you guys do it and you can convince me. What I think happened with Mac, specifically, to answer your question about the 2 interceptions. The first one, Micah Hyde made an all-world play on that ball.
Incredible.
Sensational, right?
I'm still not convinced he meant to catch that ball. Like he's over there, bringing safety help on a slightly underthrown ball. If Matt could have that one back, and if he could, he'd probably put a little bit more on it to get it to that back corner, because Aguilar had his man beat if he was going.
He burned him, right?
Yeah. So, but because it was a tiny bit underthrown, it gave Micah Hyde the opportunity to come over, get his hands out, look for the ball, and then as he looks back, the ball drops in his hands. It was an unbelievable play. Credit to Micah Hyde. I don't hang that one as a bad pick on Mac Jones. Overall, I'd say he was an average quarterback this year in the NFL, which is fantastic for a rookie. If we're talking about Mac Jones would be considered like middle-of-the-pack quarterback at the end of this season. If you told me that in August, I'd say that's a win. I'd say that's great. You took the 5th quarterback in the draft, and he ended up being a top 15, top 16 guy for your team this year. That's fantastic. However, the other guys around him, let's face it, Jonnu Smith, I'm not sure what was going on with Jonnu Smith this year. Jacoby Myers is the closest thing he has to a go-to guy and a stick mover. He's not the same type of player that Julian Edelman was or Wes Welker was. He's not that type of slot receiver, quick, just get me the ball down low where only I can catch it. I get it. He's a different guy. In some ways, he's more talented than them, but he's not that. So without Mac having either the time or the chemistry to develop that relationship with a go-to guy, it's difficult for this team or any team to kind of go, continue and go forward. You got to have that. I know I need it here. It's 3rd and 6, and we may call a play, but I know he's going to be open, and I know he's going to be at 5 yards out, and he can fight and get me 1 more yard. Who is that guy for Mac Jones? And maybe is Mac Jones ready to make that throw and that play every single time? It's a work in progress for Mac. I think it's far too early, and I haven't heard anyone saying like, well, so much for the 15th overall pick and the quarterback. That's not going to work. I haven't heard anybody say that yet. But I think there needs to be some real work done to up his game and up the game of the talent they already brought in. Hunter Henry played pretty well this year. Jacoby Myers, for the most part, played pretty well this year. Some other guys need to up their game a little bit. And, I was always a big James White guy. I think James White or his caliber of player would have helped this team immeasurably, probably gotten them, 1 more win in the regular season, could have at least kept that game respectable for them in Buffalo on Saturday night. But, you're trying to do it with, like dedicated carry the ball running backs, not guys who are true dual threats in that sense. And, if the closest thing you have to it is Brandon Bolden, well, A, that, like we said earlier, might be a problem. And B, he did not have a good game Saturday.
Yeah, no, he sure didn't. And I don't really think anyone have besides, Mac Jones and, and maybe, Kendrick Bourne. I thought, Bourne played pretty well, and he's like the closest thing they have to a guy that's like a number 1 kind of option for him, or a guy that like Mac really trusts and that he can throw the football in those critical passing plays and situations in the game. But I feel as though they're definitely missing a few pieces on offense, particularly like you say, like a 3rd down back, like like a passing down back, receiving running back, like a James White. I certainly think, if they were to bring him back, they certainly be a good move. If not, finding a guy that can play that role, more consistently and be more productive, certainly would be better. And then definitely like a number 1 receiver. They need, like a dynamic player, a guy that, teams have to game plan to say, okay, we need to take this guy away, in order to, need to stop him. And that would definitely make everybody else's job easier, because they don't really have that guy that, okay, who we gonna like stop and who we gonna take away from the Patriots offense is really not that person, on the offense right now. But wanted to ask you, are you concerned about the future of the, Patriots moving forward, particularly with, the dominance that the Bills have had against them 2 of, the last 2 games in the last couple of years? And do you believe that this was a successful season for them, and that they actually built something that they can be able to, move forward with, for the years to come? How do you feel about that?
No, I think it's a good question, Barry, and thank you for bringing up Kendrick Bourne. I kind of left him out of the mix when we were talking about the offense there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No problem.
Yeah, I do think, overall it was encouraging to see this team finish at, 10-7 and make the playoffs. I don't want to take everything away from them for the way they ended the season. Your point, though, about the structure and now the feeling in the AFC East is an important one, because it's not just Buffalo. There are things happening in Miami, and there are things that could happen in Miami with a new quarterback there that could make things even stickier for teams in the AFC East. And if Deshaun Watson ends up down there, you're going to. I mean, you're
big problem.
you're going to have a big problem with two teams. I think it would be kind of foolish to say, nah, it's just it's an off year. It was it's part of this transition year for Mac to come back. Maybe if the Bills hadn't been building this for 2 or 3 years already, I could talk myself into that. But the fact is, this is not an overnight success story for the Buffalo Bills. They've been building toward this for a few seasons now. So yes, you are no longer, or at least for I would say the next few seasons, it's difficult for me to imagine the Patriots being the favorite in the AFC East. It's going to be the Bills. The Dolphins could make some noise here very, very soon. And it is going to change the dynamic considerably if you're talking about being second or, heaven forbid, even third in your division. Enjoy this playoff appearance, because it might be some time before you make it back to the playoffs. And to that, I would say, Patriots, welcome to what it's like to be a real NFL fan, where it's not guaranteed that you win your division every year, and you're not guaranteed a trip to the AFC Championship. Quite frankly, it was a remarkable, unprecedented run that they went on. This is kind of really supposed to be what it's like. Maybe not in New England. Maybe not for 20-year-olds who only know Tom Brady and AFC championship games and 11 straight division titles. That's not the normal. It's not normal what's been happening here. It might be a little more normal, and at the end of the day, the best thing for him to have a dose of reality for the next few years and try and rebuild something, starting from the ground up and going forward. I hate to pick on the offense and talk so much about the things that they need and the weapons and all that, because defensively is what really, really scared me about how that game went down. Yeah. And when you talk about rebuilding this team, I think they've got way more work to do on the defense than they do on the offense.
Facts. Absolutely. I totally agree with that. I mean, defensively, they have massive changes and need to really shake up and and reshape that, that whole defensive roster, because, right now it's just not good enough to compete in the AFC, let alone win. It's just not competitive. And that was one of the things that really, kind of, frustrated me, was the fact that, they were so bad at that, that end of the field. Not only Saturday night, but really, like you said, within the last month of the season, since the Colts game, and after the bye, the fact that they were constantly and week after week since that point as bad as they were, that was just astonishing to me, and that was something that really blew my mind and was just was unbelievable. So I certainly think they need a lot more speed on that end. I think the linebackers and D-line is way too slow, and that was evident on Saturday in particular. I feel like they got exposed, their lack of speed, their lack of pursuit to the ball. There weren't many guys that were pursuing the football when Josh Allen was making those QB runs, or when they were able to run the ball, or those yards after the catch that they were getting, on those, passing plays. So I certainly think, what I'm saying, the age of the linebackers showed on, and as well as even in the back end, with guys like McCourty like that, it showed that maybe it's time to move on from those guys and, get some younger, talent and younger players to be able to get opportunities to contribute.
Yeah, they, there was a, kind of a recipe laid out, and I forget who had it. I know Jeff Howard retweeted it, and Bertrand had mentioned it too in the pregame on the Sports Hub on Saturday. But there's a kind of a formula for rookie quarterbacks, playing in their first postseason game, and the ones that were successful doing it had a couple of things going for them on their team. Number one was a great rushing game, and also a defense that was ranked among the best in terms of scoring defenses. Which defenses had allowed the fewest number of points. And the Patriots defense, statistically, were one of those teams. I think they were number 2 in the league. And the rushing game looked really good at times between Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, who is just a powerhouse, and I love watching Ramondre Stevenson.
Yeah.
But you go back and you look,
Me too.
you know, how did they get that scoring defense stat so high? Well, they held the Panthers to 6. They held the Jets to 6, and then they held the Jets to 13. They had a shutout over the Falcons. Okay, they held the Jaguars to 10. Well, that ends up helping your numbers considerably when you tally it up and you do an average at the end of the season. And I think there was a little bit of fool's gold there. I mean, they held the Bills to 10 points in a hurricane in Buffalo.
Right,
so
right.
yeah. So you factor in those low scoring games from Patriots opponents, and you think, maybe the Patriots didn't have that great of a defense when it came to other teams putting up points on them. They just had that number skewed a little bit by a few outstanding performances by the defense against teams that were either bad, hampered by injury and COVID, or were played in a monsoon. So,
right.
Yeah, it's going to take a real hard assessment of that defense going forward to see what they're going to need, because it's going to be a process for Mac Jones and the offense to kind of get things going to where, they might be able to play, and come back and beat a team after being down 1 or 2 scores, or go out there and drive down the field and punch it in the end zone against a good team on their opening drive, like we took for granted so many years with Tom Brady. And I can't believe I sound like such an idiot now. I used to get pissed because I'd say, man, why is it that Josh McDaniels can script out 12 plays for Brady and Edelman, they can march down the field and score the first touchdown of the game, and then they don't score again until the end of the half. Like, what I would give for a team that could go down and score on their first drive. It used to make me mad. It's like, man, they only scored twice in the first half. What's the matter with this team? Oh, God. I'd do anything for that now.
Right, exactly. For real. Wouldn't we all? Absolutely. No, we would all love to see that. And shoot, if that was the case, I'm sure, right, we'd be jumping up for joy and, screaming at the top of my lungs and doing jumping jacks in front of the TV. At least I would, be doing that for sure.
I think that's where your buddy Perillo, has that faith, right? Because we had Tom Brady, and no matter what the score was, we keep the. It's like, man, no, as soon as they go up, 14-21, we're out of there. We're just not doing it. And a lot of people were tweeting, Brady's not walking back on that field, man.
True enough, but that game, the line in that game was only about 4.5, which doesn't have anything to do with who's going to win by how much. It's, it's about the betting line and trying to get equal action on both sides. I get it, but going back to that first game in Buffalo, and this is where I think, Belichick and the Patriots still have an edge, or I thought had an edge against other teams. If it's a coin flip game, if it's anybody's game, if it's a pick 'em, either due to, a talent matchup or conditions on the field, I like Belichick and the Patriots in those games every single time, because they have, or at least had this belief, well, if anybody can win this thing, then we'll win it. No one's going to outcoach us. No one's going to work us. No one is going to be more prepared than us going into a game like that. And if it's essentially a pick 'em, we'll take it. And the line was close enough to where a lot of people thought, you know what? Maybe the Bills are getting a few points for home field, and it really is closer to a pick 'em than we want to think. I'm going to go with the Patriots. I think that's what Perillo thought. I think that's what Bertrand thought. It's what a lot of people thought. Well, we're seeing a talent disparity now come out and manifest in a way that I think a lot of us were unwilling to see before, and maybe some of that stuff isn't quite as true anymore when you don't have Tom Brady out there. He was making up for a lot of deficiencies on both sides of the ball. And now it's time to kind of reassess everything. And like I said before, get a little taste of what other NFL fans have been dealing with their entire lives.
Call me a sore loser or delusional or living in the past. But I think what pisses me off more is that Tom Brady's still playing. Tom Brady's still in the league. If Tom Brady had retired, I think I would have been fine. I would have been like, sure, I mean, I want to be like any other NFL team, but somebody's still in the league. We could have still had him. We could have still been winning. And look at what he did yesterday. He looked awesome.
Amazing.
He looked awesome. And how do you feel about that, Hardy? How do you feel about watching Tom Brady lighten up the NFC like he hasn't lost a step at 44?
You know, I was one of those idiots in 2014 after the Monday night game against the Chiefs. I'm like, this team's done. Forget it. You know, it's all over. Brady Belichick era has come to an unceremonious close. And of course, we all know what happened. They went on to win the Super Bowl that year. So I have been out on predicting the demise of Tom Brady business for 8 years now. The guy does what he says he's going to do. He plays with a poise and a level of confidence and experience that, you know, only he has. You know, we got a chance to watch a singular greatness for years here, and it sucks to watch him do it for another team now. But it's on the level of Michael Jordan. It's on the level of Tiger Woods. You know, you are watching something, you know, truly unique. You know, people throw that word around a lot. It's like, oh, he's a unique talent. No, there's a lot of, you know, receivers that can do this. There's a lot of running backs that can do that. Tom Brady is, you know, one of those Mount Rushmore type of talents. And he has proven it by playing as long as he has. And, you know, I heard him mentioning the other day, you know, he talks a lot more now during the season than he ever did before as a Patriot. But I heard him talking. Imagine that.
He does. That's true.
Wonder why.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a lot more outspoken now than in his 20 years. Right. He's showing a lot more personality. Right.
But he said something to the effect of, I said maybe 10 years ago I wanted to play till I was 50. And, I don't know, maybe that was overly optimistic. But, you know, I want to play, you know, through my, 45. I think he turns 45 in August. And I don't think he's going to be stepping down after this season. I mean, he's got one playoff win under his belt. He's got the divisional round coming up. And it's just remarkable. You know, it's tough to take the 30,000-foot view right now and say, man, we're really lucky and that's awesome. We got, you know, my team here in New England has 6 rings to show for it for our time with Tom Brady. It's a bitter pill to swallow and watch him play at the level he's still playing at right now. And, you know, if you want to bring it back to the Patriots, the lack of preparation for the departure of Tom Brady, you can say a lot of this comes back to, the Garoppolo thing didn't work out, but you had to have something in place, some kind of plan of attack. And to think that you could just do it with Cam Newton or just do it with a rookie quarterback. No, and it's really not a knock on the Patriots for trying to do it with those guys. This is what a lot of teams end up doing. They get a veteran quarterback with a really impressive resume like Cam, or they have to draft a rookie and start him sooner than they would like. But it would have been nice to go back in time and have a little better plan in place for Brady's departure, so we wouldn't have to go through some growing pains that we are now. Last year was terrible. This year, I think it's better than we feel right now. We feel awful about it now. I think it's better than that, but I don't see it getting a whole lot better than this in terms of how the seasons end for a couple of years now, because the Bills have asserted themselves and the AFC isn't done with us yet. There are other teams who see now that there's an opening here. And okay, if it's not Brady and Belichick we have to take down, who is it going to be? The Dolphins are certainly thinking that way. And, call me a sore loser too. I still can't believe we lost to that coach in Buffalo by the score that we did. But other teams look at that too and say like, what? All right, so maybe Josh Allen is good and he's got some weapons, but that coach, McDermott, we can beat that guy. We can come up with a better game plan than him. So now it's not up for grabs. The Bills are the pride of the AFC East right now, but it's not. I don't think other teams are going to look at it and say, well, we can't snatch that mantle away from them like we couldn't with the Patriots. No, I absolutely feel they can take a shot at the title in the next few years. Why not?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's safe to say we've transitioned on, from the Patriots for sure. And now, we got the rest of, the playoffs to look forward to, and maybe we'll see a couple players that might end up on the Patriots next season. But I think, watching the rest of the playoffs so far, I think we've seen maybe 2 good games in the playoffs so far. We had, the Bengals and the Raiders, and then 49ers and Cowboys last night. That was 2 really good games. But the way the Cowboys game ended last night, I have a lot of people saying, "Hey, we should probably get rid of Mike McCarthy."
By the way, Mayock just got fired in Las Vegas. I don't know if you guys saw that pop up.
Oh, shoot.
Wow.
No, I did not hear about that. Wow.
I mean, I'm
and
very surprised.
They're requesting permission to speak with a couple of Patriots people right now. They earlier today they had requested permission to speak with Gerard Mayo and I believe the Patriots director of personnel. I want to double check that right now to see who it is that they wanted to talk to here. But yes, they want to talk to Gerard Mayo, right? And they want to talk to Dave Ziegler for the GM job, and they just fired Mayock. So. Yep. The teams who made the playoffs and are out now the great shuffle begins. But that Cowboys game last night, I don't want to get off the question here. When the Patriots played the Cowboys earlier this year, I said, man, I just don't like that team. I like Dak Prescott, and I recognize the talent in their receivers. There's something about McCarthy. There's something about the way the team, and they took some undisciplined penalties, and every team does, but I had a feeling they were going to fall short. They are so much better than what they played last night, and the end of that game, I'm curious to know what you guys think about it, because watching it, I did not realize at the time when Dak Prescott was running the ball field that he was supposed to go down after 10 yards. I thought he was really trying to make a play. But seeing it now, it's very, very obvious. But I'm not one of those guys who watches it in real time and automatically recognizes when a team is making a mistake. But that's a mistake, and Dak is too good. The Cowboys, his team is too good to make a mistake like that. And when they get up to the line, and they know these guys are professionals. The Cowboys, that's a real team with real players. They know what has to happen before they can snap the ball and spike it. And it's Dak Prescott himself who got in the way of the lineman trying to come in and reset the ball. It's I hate to say it's all on Dak, but it's all on Dak. He ran the ball for too long. He burned too much time, and then he's in the way of the official who needs to come in and reset the ball. I talk about stuff we've never seen before. I've never seen that before.
Well, I've never seen a quarterback run with no timeouts left, and you have 14 seconds on the clock.
Right down the middle of the field.
Right down the middle. You're not even looking to go out of bounds. You don't have Lamar Jackson either. So what the hell are we doing? With Dak Prescott, and I definitely didn't think about the 10-yard stuff, until later on. But that play in itself was like, why would you even option to run that play, period? And the fact that they didn't, make an attempt at the end zone at all, during that last minute was like mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. It seems like they had a chance to go for it at least once before that. But I already heard it from Cowboys fans earlier this season after I said something in a post game about, not liking the team isn't the right phrase. I don't trust that team. I didn't trust him after the games I saw him play earlier in the season. And last night it kind of came to fruition. It's like, they're so good. They've got so much talent. I don't trust them. There's something holding that team back from success right now. And I think you got to, you point to Dak in that final minute because of the way he ran the ball down the middle of the field with no timeouts and the inability to stop the clock and getting in the way and not understanding situational football there. But it's a short jump up to coaching and not having the communication with your guy. And then it gets me back to the coach, the same guy who had all those years with Aaron Rodgers, and how many rings does he have to show for it?
One. That's it. Just one with one of the best quarterbacks, not only in this era, but that's ever played this game. And you only have one ring to show for it. And what was that, 11, 12 years ago? When Aaron Rodgers was 27 years old and, and the beginning of his career?
Yeah,
right.
For sure. I mean, I feel like the ref, kind of like got in the way, in the first delay of game there, and on that drive right there. And I'm like, what the frick is the ref doing? It's like, dude, get out of the way, dude. I don't understand that. Do you think the ref have any blame at all?
I think the referees are kind of up against it in this league overall. I mean, you got guys out there. I think the game is too fast for a lot of them.
Right.
And I don't mean to be ageist. Hell, I'm probably twice as old as you guys. So believe me,
I wouldn't say that.
if I'm, if this sounds like I'm being ageist, trust me, this is coming from an old guy. I couldn't go out there and follow that game and make those calls in real time and get to the line and set the ball for them and do it in a timely manner when you've got, young men, world-class athletes in the prime of their lives trying to do a job. I would get in the way. And there are some refs out there who are 15 years older than me. So I think it is, it's a bit of an antiquated process to have those guys out there with so much say in calls and, yes, in the flow of the game and in trying to there's the sneaky thing about the NFL is that there isn't all that much action. I'm sure you guys have heard this. You take a stopwatch to an NFL game, the ball's only in play for about 15 minutes. So when the ball is in play, that every second counts. And when the clock is running at the end of a game like that, you live for those moments where there's actual action happening in between the action because it happens so infrequently. So when the refs get in the way of it, the thing that bugs me more than anything, it just screws up my entertainment experience. It's another way that the refs are affecting the game, and that's nobody wants the refs to be the story at the end of the game. The refs ended up being a big story at the end of that game, whether it was their fault or not. That's the way it's still done in the NFL, and I think they need to to make some changes in the coming years about how much control they have, how much these judgment calls we're going to give them. Are we still not going to allow challenges on certain plays? And are we going to require these guys to get in the middle of everything and then get their old asses out of the way so that these guys can snap the ball and run another play? Because that's what we want. That's what we as an NFL, audience wants to see. We don't want to see, referees put in a position where they're affecting the outcome of the game because of their own incompetence. It's a naughty word to use, but that's what it boils down to.
No, I hear what you're saying about the refs. I totally get what you guys are saying with that and with you on that. But I don't know. To me, that loss by the Cowboys, like, damn, like that's the most embarrassing loss I've seen a team as talented as they are in the playoffs in a while. Like I'm sorry, man. Like I get, we all know how big choking dogs the Cowboys are, or excuse me, the Cowgirls, as I like to call them.
Oh boy! Now you're gonna hear it from those Cowboys fans. I wish you luck.
Appreciate that. I mean, shoot, they always give it to me all the time, and I give it right back. So shoot, I don't hide from them. Like, you should, if they want to hit me up on whatever social media platform, they can, because I don't give a crap in a rat's ass about them at all. And shoot, they deserve all the smoke that they're gonna get, about their team, collapsing and having an absolute putrid performance that they had yesterday. Like, the fact that you only scored 7 points going into the fourth quarter with that talented offense, one of the most prolific and dynamic offenses in the NFL, it's like, are you kidding me? And it's like the penalties they were committing were just flat out stupid. It's like, geez, like, like, you guys have any sort of football IQ? Like, my goodness, it was just, it was unreal. It was astonishing to see them play that bad in the playoffs once again and just come up short and choke like they do every single year. Like,
and a
this is
lot
who
of
they
people,
are, what they do. The Cowboys or Cowgirls being the Cowgirls. It's like they just can't help themselves but get in their own way and beat themselves in the playoffs time and time again.
Yeah, and there's still a lot of Jimmy Garoppolo fans around here, and I heard it spun that way a couple of times this morning about, well, credit to Jimmy G, he went out there and he did it. Did you guys think Garoppolo played that well yesterday?
No. Was not impressed. No.
I mean,
right?
he threw a pick and, really terrible timing, too, for that pick, at the end of the game.
I mean, he finished with 172 yards, no touchdown passes, and a pick. He certainly did enough to win the game, and he had a couple of nice throws in there. But it's not like Garoppolo went in there and beat you. Once again, Dallas, who had more talent, I feel, and they had home field, and they're there in Jerry World, and they're everything. Here it is, in a year where I think it's more wide open than it has been in a while. You still got the Packers to contend with. You still have the Buccaneers to contend with. I get all that, but you've got a home game to open up the playoffs, and you managed to essentially beat yourself more than anything. It wasn't Garoppolo who went out there and just took it to you and had a great day. No, he was all right. You got beat 23-17 at home, and because a lot of it was your own fault. It's a tough pill to swallow for what I still think is a pretty good team and a talented team, but.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not entirely too sure that some of these refs shouldn't be timed on the 40. Like, let's do a ref 40, because at the end of these games, man, especially in the hurry up offense, you got to be able to get down there, with these players and put that ball down, because like you said, every second is very critical. I know we've had you on for a little bit now, man, and thank you again for coming on. Who do you got coming out of the East? Now that the Patriots are out.
Well, obviously, Buffalo is feeling it right now. So I think it's going to be, interesting to watch what they do in the next round. If you're just talking about, the AFC, I don't know how you still don't like Kansas City. And believe me.
Oh yeah, after last night, of course.
There's plenty I don't like about Kansas City, but I won't let my personal feelings get in the way of it right now, Tyreek Hill. Instead, I mean, how do you root for that guy? I don't know. But,
I agree.
For what they have and the way they are able to make plays, we were talking earlier, about, a dynamic playmaker on offense for the Patriots and what we are like. The Chiefs have no less than 3 of them. 3 guys, dynamic, high impact offensive players. And I think it's kind of, you have to talk yourself into thinking that there's another team in the AFC right now who has a better chance of going back to the Super Bowl than Kansas City does right now. So for the AFC, I like KC.
Vlad, you got a last question for Artie?
Well, I mean, I guess the next follow-up question is, what do you have coming out of the NFC?
That's a little more interesting. Green Bay certainly had a season, and I think Aaron Rodgers is probably feeling he's got a lot to prove. He's a guy who feels like everyone is against him now. Whether it's some combination of the woke left or the naysayers or the people who think he's been a duplicitous kind of fake leader all this time. I think he's a very thin-skinned guy, and I think he's taking a lot of this stuff personally, and he's the one guy on a team who can take those personal feelings and make something happen with it on the field. It's tough to do it as a cornerback. It's tough to do it as a linebacker. But if you're the quarterback of a team, you can go out there and take your, your personal feelings and make a difference in a game. So while it would be really fun to watch Tom Brady have another shot at another Super Bowl, I think Aaron Rodgers has given himself something to play for this year. And I think it's going to be Green Bay breaking through and going to the Super Bowl this year. So those would be my picks. It's going to be Green Bay, Kansas City. Not very sexy, you're talking, favorites both, but to me, those also make the most sense.
I think Barry's going to ask the last question, but I just want to follow up, Hardy. I mean, you did say you don't want to predict Tom Brady's demise anytime soon, so I mean, I don't know.
I'm sorry if he loses a conference championship game. You're sounding like a Patriots fan from 5 years ago all over again. Oh, they lost the conference championship. Fire the coach. Get rid of Brady. You guys are awful. You know where I grew up? Do you know where I grew up? Detroit. I am a lifelong Lions fan. So listening to anybody talk about being disappointed in a team that doesn't go to the Super Bowl, to anyone who thinks that way, just suck it dry. I don't want to hear it. How many playoff wins do the Lions have in my lifetime? I'm 50 years old. How many playoff wins do the Lions have in my lifetime? Here's a trivia question for you guys to finish things off here. How many?
0. I'm guessing.
One, 1991, and in 2016, they had a 25-year celebration honoring the anniversary of the playoff win that took place in 1991. On the shelf behind me, I got pom-pom from the Pontiac Silverdome from that game. That's our hooray moment. The one win in 1991 in the playoffs that the Lions have had. So don't tell me if Brady doesn't make it back to the Super Bowl, I'm somehow predicting his demise. You can sign off now, Barry.
No, I'm just going to say real quick before I get to my last question. That's something. No worries. I was going to say a quick comment about what you were just saying about your Lions celebrating the 25th anniversary of their last playoff win. That's something like the Colts would do. Like
I was just gonna say that.
Right. Like, they, AFC, champs or
Final Four. That's right.
Champions. Like
if the Lions made it to the NFC Championship game, they'd shut the city down for a week. They'd declare it a holiday. And then the entire Motor City, maybe the entire Great Lakes state. Are you kidding me? That's so far beyond a Lions fans' wildest dreams right now. That's why I'm rooting for the Rams tonight. I'm still a Stafford guy. I feel bad for that dude. The Lions were so bad. They forced two of the greatest players at their position of all time to quit the game of football. Barry Sanders, Calvin Johnson. They said, you know what? I just can't do this anymore. If I have to keep playing for the Lions, I will not play football. Goodbye. Thank you very much. They quit the game rather than keep playing for the Lions. So for a guy to get out of that team and out of that town and have a shot at it, I'm rooting for Matthew Stafford to go all the way. I'm changing my pick. You know what? I'll take the Rams. I'll take the Rams.
There you go. There you go. There it is.
All right, last question, Barry.
Yeah, let's get to the last question because I know we've had him for a while. So wanted to ask you, Hardy, how is it like working with a larger-than-life personality like Scott Zolak is, big of a personality as he is, and if you can just share a quick moment in story like of that's your favorite that you've had, since you've worked with him, if you just like to quickly share that with us.
No, thank you. I get asked this a lot. Zoe really like that because he sounds like a 10-year-old, on the air. No, okay. In actuality, in real life, Zoe is more like an 8-year-old. He's actually on his best behavior when he's on the air. He's more scatterbrained, unfocused, immature in person than he is on the air. That is the best representation, grown-up version of himself that he can muster. I would say for 4 hours a day, but generally he loses focus by around 11:30 in the morning.
Yep.
So we get about 90 minutes out of Zoe, and then he's done. There's one thing that I always think about. Pretty early on, it was in the first few years we were working together, and I've been on middays with Zoe now for, let's see, in this fall it'll be what, 13 years
13
now.
Years,
Yeah.
Wow. That's originally awesome. Congratulations.
It was Tangway and Zolak originally, and I was doing headlines and stuff. So it was in the first couple of years. I asked Zoe to come speak at my kids' school. They said, "Oh, Hardy, you work at the Sports Hub. It's kind of a new station, but Zoe, is there any chance he would come to our fundraising night and kind of like meet the parents and stuff?" This was in West Roxbury. I said, "Sure." I asked Zoe, and he's like, "Absolutely, I'll show up." So he's supposed to be there like at 7:30, right? Downstairs at this restaurant called West on Center. They had a downstairs function room. Well, it's 7:30, 7:40, 7:45. No Zoe. And I talked to him. I knew he was on his way. I knew he was close. I go upstairs to go outside on the sidewalk, see if I can find him. He is at the bar on the first floor, surrounded by people who are buying him drinks. "Scott Zolak, welcome to West Roxbury. Glad you're here." He thought that was the event. I'm like, "Dude, we're all downstairs waiting for you. What are you doing?" So, "Oh, I'm sorry. He comes downstairs. I'm like, and to my, a lot of the parents at my kids' school, didn't know who I was, didn't care, whatever. I'm Rob to them. I'm Rob Poole. I'm Katie and Calvin's dad. They know Hardy, and they're like, "Oh, right. My God." So I bring in Zoe. I'm like, "Zoe, we're just having this fundraiser for the school tonight. If you could just say hello." And, I hand him the microphone. He launches into a 10-minute story about when he found out his wife was pregnant and how she squatted over a pregnancy test and peed on it in the CVS parking lot because they couldn't wait to find out if she were pregnant or not. And like the horrified and shocked looks on the faces of the parents in this room, like, what is he doing here? What is he talking about? Why is he telling us about his wife urinating in a Walgreens parking lot when we're just trying to raise money so the kids can have Chromebooks next year? What's going on? But he held the attention of the room in a very, again, to use this word, unique way. And that's what Zoe is. He's a one of a kind. He's a unique guy. Man. He'd do anything for anybody. I love him to death. I want to choke him out most days, but I can't reach up that 6'5". He's got a neck that's about that big around. So it's almost like a brother relationship. It's like I love him to death. I want to kill him, but I love him.
Well, thank you for sharing that story, Hardy. Well, I mean, we had you on the show. You shared an amazing story about Zolak. We had Beto on the show, an amazing story about Zolak. I mean, I think it's about time we have Zolak on the show.
We have Zolak come on the show.
I agree. It's only right.
Okay. I tell you what, you ask him, I'll ask him. There's no way he'd sit still for an hour, but you might be able to get a 20-minute podcast.
We can get 20. We'll get 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Take 20 minutes. Right.
All right.
We can get a good 20 minutes out of him. We'll be more than happy and ecstatic about that.
I'll teach him how to log on to his email so he can find the invitation from you, Barry, and we'll see if we can get that done for you.
Great. Absolutely. Awesome. Sounds good. We'll definitely hit him up and so you can show him how to get on the email and, and hit me back up and accept that invite to come on the podcast. That would be great. I'd love that.
Yeah, you think I'm joking. I'm not.
Oh, no, I believe you. I know you're not joking. I believe you 100%. I totally, trust you on that and, and take your word for it and definitely will hold you to that for sure. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me on. Seriously.
No, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Like I was saying, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. All three of us here love listening to you guys, do your thing on the radio 98.5 Sports Hub from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., I believe, right? Every weekday. So, just keep inspiring us, man. And, again, we really appreciate you coming on. You didn't have to do this, but you're here with us. So, more power to you. And we hope to hear from you soon.
Well, I appreciate you guys asking. You're doing a great job. Keep it up. And, we'll definitely do it again. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sure,
Have a good
absolutely.
night.
Looking forward to it. Thank you so much, Hardy. This was
Thanks,
a
guys.
pleasure and an honor having you on here. So we greatly appreciate you, being a guest, and that definitely would love to have you back on, and looking forward to doing this again sometime in the future.
Sounds good. Yeah, we'll do it when the Lions make the NFC Championship. How's that?
There you go. There you go.
Man, that might be a while. That might take a while.
Okay, not that long. We won't wait that long.
Yeah, it's true. Let's not wait that. Let's not take that risk. Right, it's way too risky.
All right, guys. Thanks again.
Thank you,
Have a good
Hardy.
night.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah. Have a good one. Take care.
Thanks. You too.
Hey,
There
man.
you have it.
There you have it. Like Barry said, we love these guys at 98.5, the Sports Hub, man. They're on the radio for a reason. These guys have a vast amount of knowledge about the game, and they're paying real close attention to them, and we love to have them on here. So, hopefully we get Scott Zolak next, man. That larger than life personality. So, if you're still paying attention, please make sure you're subscribing to the channel, pressing that like button, commenting, sharing with your friends. The more you like this, the more our video is spread out on YouTube. Help us, increase the algorithm, and make sure you're following us on all social media platforms. We're at ProFan Sports on everything except for Instagram, and that's ProFans_sports. So that was the episode, man. Until next week, we'll holler at y'all. Peace out.
Well, good week, everyone. See y'all next week. Happy MLK Day.